Yesterday, People magazine announced that dating influencer Danielle Walter and her boyfriend Lucas Alcantara got engaged. Now, if this is what Danielle wants and they're happy, more power to them. Many congratulations. This video really isn't about them. It's more about the way people are trying to shame and gaslight any woman who looks at the relationship that Danielle has presented online and thinks something's off. Even the most mild cynicism expressed about this fast-tracked relationship is being called negative energy. It's not negative energy to acknowledge that marriage isn't nearly as beneficial for women as it is for men. And the statistics and the data prove this. It's 2026. We know this. Men in relationships, men who are married, men who have children, that increases their earning potential. It boosts their longevity and their emotional and physical well-being, and just have overall better emotional and mental support. Women, on the other hand, we do the majority of the emotional and the domestic labor around the house. Our earning potential significantly drops if we take time off to have children and be a stay-at-home mom. Danielle has amassed a massive following on Instagram and TikTok. So of course there's this groundswell of support for this announcement of her engagement, which is fine. But what we're not gonna do is try to normalize the relationship that Danielle has presented. We're not gonna normalize fast-tracking relationships into marriage when we know the data, when we know that women do not benefit from marriage the way men do. And what we're definitely not gonna do is resort to the same tried and true bullshit of saying any woman that expresses any level of cynicism about this relationship is bitter or they're just jealous. Those kind of accusations are reductive, they're misogynistic, quite honestly, they're just boring. If your first response to a woman who thinks something's off about Danielle's relationship is that she's just jealous, you're simple-minded. And I want to be clear that I am not in any way trying to justify or validate an extreme to this, where people are harassing Danielle and Lucas. Women should be encouraged to think critically about any situation, but especially about marriage. They should not be expected to ignore basic context clues that are presented whenever Danielle talks about her relationship. Danielle makes her relationship public, so she shouldn't be surprised that women watch the content that she puts out into a public forum and have questions. Questions like, who's paying for all this stuff? What does he do for a living? How does he support himself? The way women are being asked to ignore all of that, and the way people are saying, well, that's none of your business. Listen, I think if people had their way, they wouldn't want to know anything about Danielle and Lucas. But the fact remains that she makes their relationship public, but she only makes certain aspects of that relationship public, presenting a very skewed, very off-kilter portrayal of what their relationship is like. You can't keep telling people how compatible you and your partner are when you only show them slivers and slices of your life. And if you don't want people questioning it or analyzing it, keep it offline. That's always a choice. But you cannot just expect people to blindly believe everything you say. That's the whole reason why women bought into the idea of marriage in the first place.
I'm in the bathroom of the coffee shop. This might be my husband.
There's nothing wrong with a woman side-eyeing a relationship that's moving at light speed, especially when the relationship is between two people who don't appear to be on the same level professionally, socially, and most importantly, financially. We have glamorized these instant relationships for far too long. And when they end, and most of them do, it's typically the woman that takes the bigger hit. Because if it turns out that they've been bamboozled in some way, it suddenly becomes about how come she didn't see the signs? Why didn't she see the red flags? Suddenly the focus becomes her judgment, her desperation, her loneliness. Based on what we've seen, it doesn't seem like Danielle has spent much time with any of Lucas's family or friends. And maybe she has and she's just not talking about it. But you can't blame people for noticing that and wondering why that is. We see a lot of him in her life. We see her incorporating him into her life. But why don't we see the same on his end. And there could be a very valid reason for that. Maybe he's just very private. Again, that's totally understandable. But you cannot blame or fault somebody for noticing that and not thinking, that's a little odd. That's what I'm referring to when I talk about context clues. And there's a lot of stuff like that in this relationship. And anybody who notices these things, or worse, expresses confusion or concern about them, ends up getting harassed by her attack dog followers. It's so weird to me how so many of her followers almost seem relieved that she got engaged. Not that she got engaged to this one particular person, just that she got engaged. I think it reflects so much about our society and about how there's still so many women that center men. All their lives, women are told to ignore their instincts and their intuition, which is exactly what's happening here. A lot of women's internal bells and whistles are going off, but when they express that fact, people try to silence them. And what's really unfortunate about that in this specific situation is that the people trying to silence these women are other women. About 2 months ago, I published a 1-minute video talking about Danielle's docuseries where she talks about her relationship with Lucas. And when I tell you that the women who disagreed with me didn't just disagree, they went straight to personal attacks. It became attacks on my looks, my age, the belief that I'm not in a relationship strictly because I don't talk about it. They attacked the very things that they have been told matter. Looks, age, relationship status. If these women were any more transparent, they'd be clear. And the thing is, when men make attacks like that, what do we say? We say they're threatened. They're threatened by the woman's confidence. They're threatened by the fact that that woman doesn't seem to need a man. They resent her, so they feel a need to take her down a peg. That's why women do it. There's a big difference between productively and effectively expressing a disagreement or a concern and just launching a personal attack because you want to hurt somebody. And I'm not saying that I haven't seen both happen in the comments of Danielle's posts. I do think that there are some people who are just jealous of her, and so they're being unnecessarily hurtful and nasty because that makes them feel better. But I don't think that's even close to being the majority. This isn't a critique of Danielle's decision to get engaged. This is a critique of reaction culture. A lot of influencers have created environments where the only acceptable response for anything they put out there is praise and applause. And they'll do anything they can to demonize anybody that doesn't fall in line, to make sure they can maintain this vacuum of toxic positivity. Women shouldn't be belittled into agreeing with somebody or supporting a decision when they're looking at something right in front of them, a relationship, and there doesn't appear to be the same amount of investment on both sides. Could I be wrong? I hope I'm wrong. But other people don't get to tell me what I see. The skepticism isn't irrational, it's just informed. If the stakes are higher for women, then why aren't we allowed to ask questions? Some women can't help it if they have extreme pattern recognition. Not every pause is jealousy or hostility or negativity. Sometimes it's just experience recognizing a pattern. I can sit here and say that I really hope this works out for Danielle, and I do. But that doesn't mean that I don't trust my lived experience, and most importantly, that I don't trust my instincts. It's important for single women to know that a ring does not make things make sense. Now, this is going to hit for some people, and it's going to touch a nerve for others. Whatever reaction you have, I want to hear it in the comments. I want to have a discourse about this. Make sure you're following me on TikTok and YouTube at My Character Analysis, and make sure to follow my personal Instagram at @TheKristenM. And if you're interested in the bonus and the behind the scenes content where we talk about human behavior and I give tips and advice on how to navigate tricky or toxic situations, or if you want more content where I analyze real and fictional people's behavior, you can subscribe to my Substack at characteranalysispod.substack.com, or you can subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/mycharacteranalysis. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.